Voters in Missouri voted overwhelmingly in favor of a ballot measure that would have given workers paid sick leave, raised the minimum wage. Republican politicians voted to overturn the measure.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
With that, let's jump right into Last Week in Southern Labor. This is a segment that we do every week where we take a look at what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to. Here's what they were up to from the May 9th to May 16th. In new union campaigns, 20 workers at 315 Primo Dispensary in Valley Park, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, Local 655. 45 workers at SP Plus Corporation, a subsidiary of Metropolis Technologies in Kenner, Louisiana, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU, Local 1535. 172 workers at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., filed a petition to hold a union election with the United Auto Workers, UAW. 32 workers at Vestas in Dallas, Texas, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters, Local 745. 17 security guards at Tootsie's Entertainment in Nashville, Tennessee, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Tennessee Security Union. And 16 workers at Starbucks in Tampa, Florida, filed a petition to hold a union election with Starbucks Workers United, as did 19 workers at a location in Fayetteville, North Carolina. In campaign updates, faith-based investors who have $58 billion invested in Ford have expressed concern to the company over allegations of union busting at Blue Oval plants in Tennessee and Kentucky. In election results, 67 workers at Alotrim, North America in Lebanon, Kentucky, voted 40-20 in favor of sticking with their union, IUE CWA Local 83697, in a decertification election. 14 workers at Appalachian Power in Roanoke, Virginia, voted 14-0 in favor of unionization with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW Local 978. Workers who had previously filed a petition to decertify IBEW Local 584 as the union representing 14 workers at Brent Electric Cooperative in Pryor, Oklahoma, withdrew their petition. 75 workers at Alamo Draft House in Austin, Texas, voted in favor of unionization with the UAW. 5 workers at Kentucky Power in Ashland, Kentucky, voted in favor of unionization with IBEW Local 978. 31 workers at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., voted in favor of unionization with the Service Employees International Union, SEIU Local 500. 10 workers at Constellation Energy Solutions in Washington, D.C., voted against unionization with IUOE Local 99, and 14 workers at Newbold Services in London, Arkansas, voted in favor of unionization with the Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA Local 360. In grievances, unfair labor practices, and court cases, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals rolled back a previous injunction from a lower court that would have prevented the government from implementing Trump's plan to end collective bargaining by most federal employees, in a major loss for the unions. In strikes and bargaining updates, members of the Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers Union, SMART, at Tri-Rail, a commuter rail service in Hialeah, Florida, voted unanimously to ratify a new contract. Though the union did not include details from the contract, the union also boasted in their press release of their 100% membership at this employer in a right-to-work state.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
The American Postal Workers Union, APWU, say they are nearing the end game in their negotiations with Postal Service management. And in political and legislative updates, voters in Missouri voted overwhelmingly in favor of a ballot measure that would have given workers paid sick leave, raised the minimum wage, and tied future minimum wage increases to inflation. Republican politicians voted to overturn the paid sick leave portion of the measure and to eliminate tying minimum wage wage increases to inflation. Republicans in D.C. are trying to cut benefits for federal workers, specifically by increasing employee contributions to the retirement system, basing retirement on high 5 instead of high 3, and instituting a pay cut for new employees unless they agree to be at will. Federal employee unions oppose the cuts. The National Association of Letter Carriers, NALC, participated in a Capitol Hill roundtable to discuss the negative impacts these provisions would have on their members and are encouraging their members to let their congressperson know they oppose the measures. Another thing that Republicans want to do in order to fund tax cuts for the wealthy is cut Medicaid, in particular by adding work requirements. This has been tried in some states and does not increase work. It also adds paperwork that is cumbersome and is ultimately addressing an issue that does not exist. Only 3% of Medicaid recipients are long-term, non-disabled, non-workers. But the new administrative burden would be borne by all recipients of Medicaid. Matt Brunig points out the cruelty in a new piece for the New York Times. Pressure has worked, and hundreds of workers at the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, who work to protect firefighters and coal miners, have been rehired. Shortly after this was announced, though, the Trump administration said they would be cutting an equivalent number of workers from elsewhere in the CDC. A Doge person at the VA gave an interview to Fast Company, a business magazine, where he admitted being surprised that, quote, government works, it's not as inefficient as I was expecting, and that he is surrounded by people who are mission-driven and, quote, love their jobs. In another Doge failure last week, Doge personnel at the Social Security Administration implemented a fraud check system to test their claim that 40% of all calls to Social Security were fraudulent. They found, I kid you not, 2 calls out of 110,000 that had a high probability of being fraudulent. This did slow all retirement claim processing by 25%. Trump came to the rescue of the banks last week. The Biden administration's Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, had issued a rule limiting most overdraft fees to $5, but this year the Senate passed a resolution to overturn it. Trump signed that resolution last week. The U.S. Committee on Education and Workforce held a hearing on OSHA that largely centered on employers being unhappy about a proposed Biden administration heat rule. Jordan Barab, a former OSHA official, spoke eloquently in favor of the rule and OSHA's mission generally. And finally, in Internal Union Affairs, Mark Perrone, the international president of the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, one of the largest unions in the country, resigned last week. Milton Jones was appointed president by the executive board. Milton Jones is an Alabamian and the first black person to lead the union. If we missed something, let us know at tvlr.fm/contact, and we'll include it in next week's roundup. We will also be including stuff that was not included in this segment in the newsletter, which you can subscribe to at tvlr.fm.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.